Okay, so let's go ahead and kick off here. Let's go ahead and looks like the stream died on YouTube. Okay, it's back. Okay, so good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Engineering the Markets. My name is Jared, and today is December 28th, 2022, last Wednesday of the year. So happy hump day to everybody. And we'll just kick off by kind of walking around the market. There isn't too much notable for large impact today for the S&Ps. We do have some jobless claims coming up tomorrow, but we'll kind of look at that as we get into the end of tomorrow's session. And for the most part, yesterday's trade was fairly self-contained. We saw pretty much a lot of back and forth trade between Friday's close, which for now is kind of acting as a area of resistance for the S&P, along with some high to low trade in the morning, where we did hit approximately 380 on the SPY, and then the SPX kind of pulled into about 38.11 and then rallied back to our Friday's close. So we're noticing some behavioral characteristics here. The gravitational pull of things like previous day close still kind of remain important for intraday trade, but additionally, some of the speed of the moves back to these levels is also important. I think traders kind of underestimate how fast things can kind of snap back, especially when there's not a huge breach or any sort of major reason for a sell or a buy in the market. We're not really seeing a lot of heavy volume, nor are we seeing any sort of relative news that would drive the market higher or lower currently. I did go ahead and mark the SPX expected move boundary. So if you missed it yesterday, this is where you should be marked off for the week. And once again, just kind of noting that the market doesn't necessarily expect to break down based on where the lower boundary currently sits, but it does have an expectation that we might backtest. And once again, this would be the upper supply region that was left after we started to sell from FOMC and CPI. So for the most part, we're kind of waiting for a little bit more indication, especially in regards to bigger moves. I think a lot of trade is kind of revolving around shorter term opportunity, maybe kind of picking out stocks that are actually moving with some degree of trend or having a little bit more momentum in their favor. And as we kind of look around today, we'll notice a few things that are noteworthy. NATGAS active contracts are testing relative lows. So we're seeing, once again, some pretty steep decline in natural gas short-term demand. This was kind of a more technically driven idea that this was going to potentially reject its 200-day moving average. And we did see quite a lot of volatility in that price region. Now we are looking at the results of that rejection, which is potentially a fresh low coming in today. So I'll be watching maybe some NatGas products to see if there's any trade opportunity. UNG tends to be kind of a classic and a favorite, but a lot of people also shift into the leverage products. Boil and Cold tend to be the two that most traders focus in on. So fairly liquid products, but depending on your trading style, you often want momentum if you're going to go to the leverage ones. Let's see, watching the dollar still, but ultimately no volatility as of late. We're holding monthly support currently, and as far as 2023, I would expect the dollar to kind of break away from this area. Not sure what the catalyst would be for that type of move, but I would look to trade whatever reaction came about. And for the most part, I'd be looking to target the metals. As I mentioned before, gold and silver are still holding trend, but similar to the dollar, they're more or less trading in inverse correlation step with the dollar. If the dollar does react violently, I would expect gold and silver to have a pretty significant reaction off of it. So watching these for signals or just looking to see which product might be better to trade. Kind of eyeballing silver at the moment simply because it's a bit more extended and it has, from a technical sense, achieved its doubling target, maybe plus or minus $1. So I'd be looking to either fade it, especially if the dollar were to actually bounce, or if the dollar breaks down, I would expect a pretty sharp upside move in silver, just kind of pushing through to maybe even close to relative highs back in 2022. So it really depends on what the dollar does, though. I would say, though, it's not in a good place to buy, more of a tradable event, and we'll need to see that volatility. And I think in regards to some of the names on deck today, there's a couple that I'll be watching. So I'll just kind of go over what my initial watch list looks like today, maybe talk through some of the trade ideas for the rest of the week. One that I'm paying attention to, both due to the sector it lives in, along with the level of support it's currently hitting, is Amazon. Obviously, more or less the underperformer in regards to some of the larger mega market cap names. We've seen some declines in stocks like Microsoft, Alphabet, and Apple, but Amazon, from a market cap perspective, has truly underperformed this year as it sits in the discretionary category. More specifically, this particular low happens to be the pandemic low. So from the perspective of how has Amazon performed since the pandemic, one could argue that outside of the markup phase that it encountered, we've given back all of the gains from the pandemic performance. So why would this be relevant for trade? I would like to see this level tested and actually maybe even breached slightly to just kind of know that the selling is hitting that climax. We're not really seeing any short-term signal quite yet near the level, but it's kind of trickling into it. So that's where I'd expect some reaction to occur. And then from that point, mostly just playing the bounce off of it. So I'm liking this both as maybe a swing opportunity in the next couple of weeks, along with the potential for this breach to happen in the next couple of days. Obviously, still bearish on multiple time frames, but the idea that you're hitting such a important low means that we should probably pay attention to what's happening around that low. And for the most part, just remember that when you hit support, you don't have to bounce immediately. The main thing is that you're going to start setting up at support. And we have some examples of more or less sectors that have done this. So some examples where, sectors have done full traversals. One kind of that comes to mind, it was XVI. And this was the pandemic low out in March of 2020. We hit that low, and obviously coming off of some steep selling, especially from its all-time highs. And what you'll notice is the day that it hit that low, it more or less showcased some sort of engulfing looking structure on a daily, but you'll notice that it didn't necessarily immediately start to rally. We actually had to do a double bottom. So it's an important concept to remember. as we're hitting these massive supports, the marketplace may not necessarily inflect quite on that day or on that session, but moving into a next couple of weeks kind of phase, you'd be looking for some stronger confirmation and setup, and arguably even waiting for the stuff like these ranges to break and taking something like a back test, which I believe doesn't necessarily get you the best price. Depends on what your mindset is. If you're more investor focused, you'd rather just get a good price. You don't really care about the technicals. But if you're more technically focused and trade oriented, this risk to reward can be built as equivalently as this one. And the only difference is that you don't have to experience stuff like testing or double bottom type approaches. So this is a good representation of what a chart could look like in regards to a pandemic test. But remember, and these are outlier cases because they're not necessarily profitable companies. There are some examples where this has not been reacting to the price very well. One example has been Roku. Here we have our pandemic low. We kind of came into it close on an earnings reaction. Let me pull in a little bit here. Came in close to an earnings reaction, pretty strong bounce from there, but it did have some of that earnings option open interest to kind of drive price. And what you'll notice here is that even as we're testing it officially, the market itself is not rewarding aggressive bulls. It's actually leaning a bit lower. And you're even seeing things like resistance starting to form, especially here. Very noteworthy touch of pandemic lows and then fresh lows as of the past couple of weeks. So there are some stocks that are responding to this level. It's not necessarily that it's going to be the end all be all of their sell-off. It typically is just a level to watch and a price to monitor for trade opportunity. So some differences there. Not saying those are comparable companies or even comparable sector groupings, but it's important to understand what the chart could look like. And that's going to be important for future trade, especially if you're trying to position around that particular price. So that one I'm definitely focused in on, maybe today and tomorrow. Might be some opportunity. Would love to see the discretionary sector start to recover, and that would be maybe more signaling that Amazon could outperform in that short-term period. But really the linchpin here is Tesla. And most traders who have logged in today have noticed that Tesla is up this morning. Not only is it up, but the pre-market activity was quite interesting. I would say it almost went parabolic relative to that time frame. This is obviously a highly oversold stock. We knew that going into a couple of trade sessions last week, and obviously oversold can get worse. Things can get more precipitous, and especially on gap down sell-offs, which we did have yesterday, that can almost mark some of the most extreme price activity. You'll notice that yesterday's trade was equivalent from a price perspective. High to low, we did move approximately $11, but the percentage relative to the new share pricing was the most extreme. AKA Tesla was down approximately 11 to 12%, simply because $11 to $12 represents that type of percentage drop. And we had also started with a gap down, so there was a little bit of that gap percentage calculated. So very interesting how these stocks will trade, especially because a lot of participants want to be first in line. They often want to time bottoms. And in doing so, it just depends on what their risk parameters are. If they can tolerate the sell-off, they don't mind experiencing new lows. But if they're over leveraged, or if the marketplace simply is moving too fast for them, oftentimes they are run through as we are approaching the end of a parabolic. I will say that this is a pretty classic parabolic setup. The marketplace is showing high volume at this low, and it's also a gap down and sell. So the thing that would confirm that we might have a parabolic in place is, one, we could probably engulf yesterday's trade, just kind of showing that that was the end of the sell and indicating some sort of pivot. Additionally, we could fill this gap. And the way that gap gets filled depends on what the after hours trade looks like. But oftentimes when you have a parabolic and you leave some sort of exhaustion style gap at the bottom or the top, that does mark the end of that trade. It essentially should not be retesting that anytime in the near future. So we're looking for those types of signals. Today has the potential to set it up, but remember, this is still a highly contentious stock, and even though it is oversold, today is just an opportunity to end it. Doesn't have to be the end. A lot of people are arguing for 190, just some lower price levels that have been marked in previous trade, something equivalent to this. I would say that that's maybe a future target, but I would be looking for this price region, now that we've hit the low end, to actually provide support and just to stop basically this precipitous sell. So interesting how the market dynamic works, interesting how market cycles work. Obviously, lots of pain in regards to people who are holding the asset, but this is how distribution works. It's important to notice it as it's forming. It's important to plan around it. And when it triggers, it's important to understand the potential. Distribution sell-offs are often some of the hardest downtrends to figure out. They often have very steep declines, and more often than not, the type of selling occurs in multiple stages. It tends to be 1 to 2 initial cycles of selling and then some extreme selling, at which point we're just looking at capitulation type events. We're not even looking at the absolute lows. That's usually where depression and some other structural psychological events start to take place. But as a trader, capitulation is a bit more interesting because it's easier to time. So let's take a look at some of the questions throughout the morning, and we'll take a look at some of the ideas for later. So we've got Cameron asking about Nvidia. It doubled its range. So we were looking at Nvidia more specifically at the trend. So Nvidia did have an uptrend, daily uptrend. I would argue somewhere around there should be support. I don't have the trend line perfect, but you can kind of see that most lows were supported. They led to higher highs, but you'll also notice that as this was happening, there was more channeling going on. I thought this was a little bit more cleaner, but should be something like that. Yeah, I thought this was a little bit cleaner, but I might have to do some adjustment here. It's not perfect, but there's more or less channeling going on. And the thing that can end channels are often breaches, significant breaches. What you'll notice is Nvidia did have a significant breach here. It tends to be when it's the most bullish on an intraday time frame, because you get this relative extreme of buying euphoria plus selling capitulation. That unfortunately ended that trend. So that was the high, and then of course we broke the channel. We broke the idea of support in the channel, and we even did a very minor back test before we saw more selling. So at this point in time, you kind of have like an ABC where you know how much this sell was, you anchor it here, and you can kind of estimate that if it sells in a similar fashion, we will be hitting some of these lows. The thing that was important though is where are we headed? And this gap was important. Yesterday, we actually were able to fill the top half of the gap, where here you'll notice that this is the opening price of this candle. We filled up this whole region, and the gap fill itself ends when we hit the close of that candle. Now, the question is, did we do that in pre-market? I believe I saw Nvidia was a little bit lower, 138.47, and the close of this candle was 137.76. So we're within 70 cents, 70, 80 cents of closing that gap. And it showcases that, the structure here is kind of respecting some of the buying and selling waves, but more specifically, if you had just the channel, you would argue that a breach of the channel could at least hit a target like this. And that's the idea, where it doesn't have to stop there, but that's a target. That's where a channel sell-off or some sort of breakaway from a channel tends to go. It can double the size of the width of the channel. So both of those are equivalent ideas. One's going to be shorter, so therefore, the more aggressive target is the one that might not be hit, or might not be hit as easily. Now, TSM, we were looking at this high and this low. It does appear to have faded, so I believe this one has worked. And all we were doing here is the same thing. It's a technically more of a range, but y'all can call it a channel. There's a width here. Once it breaks away, you're targeting that double, and you're looking to maybe even have structural targets, which in this case there would be another gap fill. In this case, we're not quite done with the gap fill, but it's pretty close. So let's see, what else do we got? You mentioned yesterday the risk of a gamma sell-off. Can you explain that? Tesla was only pricing about $10 of expected movement this week. So as of last week, there was a pricing here of about $10 when we opened. Tesla moved $10 yesterday. So there was a bunch of puts at 110 that went in the money, and you'll notice there's like 30,000 open interest still here. When that happens, if the stock keeps selling off, the type of market dynamic that has to take place will have to hedge those puts. And because it happened Monday, the idea of it basically perpetuating the move and just hedging lower and lower could have put Tesla at risk of hitting 100. If the expected move was 10, it moved 10, and we're looking at like a doubling, that would probably be about 100. But the pre-market is indicating that that's not what the market maker intends currently, and therefore if it can hold 110, I think Tesla has a good chance to just stay within its expected move, if not move to the other side, which would be like 130. Obviously the parabolic helps with that setup too. So an expected move boundary would be something like this, where you're seeing the breach yesterday, and then the top side would be about 130, 133. But it was a $10 expected move. So based on those ranges. Let's see, did you say the gap would not likely be filled or likely filled on Tesla? It doesn't matter. It's an exhaustion gap if it's filled, and if it's gapped away, it's also an exhaustion gap. So the filling of a daily candle is irrelevant. It's about where the price is after this event. So it could fill it today and actually run through the area, or it could actually gap outside of it. And similar to this day, instead of printing continuous price range, it would just move outside. Both of them are exhaustion gaps, but one of them is called like an island setup, and it's still an exhaustion gap concept. It's the end of trend gap, and we're looking for that to form in either fashion. So why do we see biggest volume drop at the bottom? This is not institution selling. This is margin. The reason it's high volume is because there are buyers all along this sell-off, and the ones that can hang on, along with the ones that are about to be margin called, will get out of the market at the bottom. They have to tolerate the entire drop if they're not selling earlier. So the high volume is due to margin. It's the over leverage positions getting out of the market, along with a bunch of traders and participants who are taking place. So you anticipate a soft landing for recession? Not really. Long-term hold seemed risky if this is just a start. Can we see more value out of Amazon? It depends on your time frame. Like, do you see value in Amazon 5 years from now and 10 years from now, or do you see it next year? If next year is recessionary, then Amazon, for the most part, will likely underperform, but relative to the indices, they could both be down. So it doesn't really matter from a portfolio perspective. If both assets are down, one might just be down less. And it, relative to the index or relative to a benchmark. So the value is not so much in whether the stock is going up or down, it's whether the stock is outperforming or not. And if we're going into a recession, or if it's anything like that, I would argue that Amazon is not where I'd put my bet. But it doesn't mean that the company is not undervalued, which simply means that it might be a good investment time, not a good trading time to be long. So, okay. Unfortunately, that's all the time I have for today. Maybe circle back some of the questions tomorrow and we'll look at those. But as always, trade safe. Stay tuned for pre-market prep. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll talk more tomorrow.
All right. Good morning, my friends. Welcome to PreMarket Prep. I hope you're having an amazing morning. Hope you had a great day yesterday. Good morning, Norm. How you doing today?
Good morning, brother. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good, my friend. Doing good. Guys, let's give Jared a big thumbs up for engineering the markets every Monday through Thursday. A lot of great information there today. We broke down Tesla and some of the questions you guys had this morning. So thank you for that. With that said, guys, let's take a look at what we got going on today. First, let's look at some of the stuff we had yesterday. My watch list only made up of about a couple of tickers here, not a whole lot. We'll look at Neo. Neo was on my list yesterday, which I didn't think was a great one. But we didn't have a whole lot to watch pre-market. So pre-market, this thing already had done a whole lot of dropping here. At the market open, it did try to recover a little bit. You see that pop there, and then just right back down, hitting some pre-market lows. And again, it traded pretty well. It wasn't a great one, the best one on the list, but it did trade very well. Of course, all eyes on Tesla. I mean, this thing is just insane. It opened up yesterday at the market bell at 117, closed at 109. Today, you're getting a little bit of a bounce. Obviously, we are extended on the daily here. Jerry spoke about this in the engineering the markets there, and we'll see where this goes. It can. It can go either way here, guys. So it's going to be in play again today. Already 9 million shares traded this morning. I mean, just
Yeah.
just insane. Here is Apple. Apple also was really good yesterday, guys. Very clean drop on Apple yesterday. Beautiful opening range on the 5 minute. So it gave you a nice little action there. And then we had Oxy on deck, which I didn't pay much attention to. And here's the reason why, probably. Yeah, I didn't look at it much. It didn't do anything exciting. Look how choppy this thing was. So nothing happening there. And then we had Nvidia yesterday. We had a massive sell off. Just look at the drop here, guys. The first 15 minutes were just brutal, going all the way from 151 in the first 15 minutes down to 145. So again, nice drop there. Does hit the VWAP a little bit higher. Can't hold that for long. You can see the drop and continuation there. So Nvidia probably one of the better trading stocks yesterday alongside Tesla. So a lot going on as we get close to our year end here. Norm, let's go over some market polls on what's the latest and greatest happening.
Yeah, man. I can tell you the latest. I don't know anything about greatest. This week is usually a good week for trading. December is usually a good month for trading.
Yes.
As unusual as this year has been, this is continuing with that trend. So maybe we'll break it as the year comes to an end, but the market
Hmm.
doesn't work on the calendar like we do. So who
Yeah.
knows, man? It's interesting to say the least. Data, we're pretty light on data this week. We got the pending home sales index at 10. Yeah, let's see. I mean, there's very little on the gappers this morning. I would say overall light volume, with the exception of Tesla and its insane volume. Going to hit 10 million shares here after not too long this morning, well before the market opens. But we'll just have to see how it plays out. It's
Yeah.
been anything but usual.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, let's get Oh, I forgot to take off my Christmas stuff from this slide here. Let's do that now.
Need some
Um,
fireworks for New Year's.
yeah, need to start set up for change the scene here. Um, but yeah, guys, let's take some of these lights off. There we go. We'll take our snowman off for now. Perfect. There was no Christmas rally. I tried to get it going here with some decorations. It
Yeah,
didn't
we
quite
still
work.
got a few days left for
Yeah.
potential, but
Yeah.
I don't. If I had to bet, I would say it's less than the probabilities of a coin flip.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, guys, let's take a look at some of the stuff we have on deck this morning. As far as our gappers list, we are going to head over to our tradingterminal.com, guys. You can get free scanners there. And you got the gap up, gap down, and some other ones that will activate as the market opens up here. So let's take a look here. And Norm, you did mention there were some that were a little bit funky this morning on here, so we'll be on the lookout for those.
Yeah, there's
Um,
some leftovers from the close yesterday for some reason, but if you look at the timestamps
Timestamp, yeah,
on
yeah.
them, anything that's from this morning will be legit.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I noticed, guys, this is all beta, right? We've been working on this, and I noticed
And
there's a
it's
new
still beta
feature
working.
now. There's a new feature now which I like, and we got time because our gappers list doesn't look good, anyways. So we got time to talk about this. I like this feature. They're working on this, right? So now you can expand. The scanners, we couldn't do that before. Maybe even move them. Okay, yeah, there we go. See, it's a little funky now, but it's gonna get better. And this is why you have to sign up. Because then once you sign up, you're gonna be able to save all your settings.
Locks it in, yeah.
Locks it in. But I like this
And
because
you
now
get to
you
see
can.
yourself. You need to update that picture. You've got
I
better
do.
beard pics
That
now.
is, oh yeah, that is so old. I gotta update that. So this is nice. I like this. I like this. I'm gonna play with this. I just noticed it today. I'm gonna play with this later and set it up the way I like it. So definitely take advantage of that, guys. Pretty cool stuff there. All right, so let's take a look at what we have on Dex TGTX, which is not target short. It is a pure garbage, really.
Yeah, it's a biotech. It was on there yesterday. Nothing really exciting on it.
Yeah. So nothing to see there. We'll move down over to NNOX, and I believe this sounds familiar, and I think it's garbage as well. NNOX, yeah, don't see anything great. It's been dropping in the last couple of days. No volume really, just barely making our gap up list this morning. And what I'm doing this, guys, as I mentioned, I'm skipping through the ones that have if you look at the gappers list on Trading Terminal, I'm skipping the ones that are for last night's timestamps. Tesla, of course, is on here. They are up this time. So starting in the green side of things, they're up 2.1 right now, so 2% this morning. And again, just the amount of volume that is being pushed through on Tesla is just insane. So at the moment, Tesla's looking really good in play today for sure. Let's look at our 5-minute. You can see there we got a nice little pop. This thing kept dropping after hours too. Like it closed at 109, went down to 106, I believe was the low of the after hours. Yeah, and now
and change. Yeah, just
yeah,
under
now
107.
recovering. So when it kept dropping last night, I'm like, oh, that's not good. It's still dropping after hours. That's not great, but good recovery this morning so far. So that's good. We'll keep an eye on that one. Let me go ahead and clean this list, by the way. Control A, Control X, and we're going to add on Tesla in play for sure. And what else we have here? We have Lee. Let's take a look at Lee this morning. No, this is not really in play, guys. It's just hitting all the right numbers, above 2%, above 100,000, but this is not in play. There's better EV vehicles. This is not it. I know NIO traded great yesterday. This could be another one that we can look at this morning. Maybe a possible because right now the volume is extremely light on NIO. So not a whole lot to see there. I'm going to put them as a possible for now. They did trade very well. Nvidia, I know it's not on this list here. But I'm definitely going to look at Nvidia this morning. They had a massive drop yesterday. So definitely want to see what's going to happen with them today. All right, let's look at our gap down list this morning. Not a whole lot on here. We have Frey, which, by the way, I think this is a horrible ticker as well. Yeah, this is another one. The Fryer Battery. Fryer Battery. That's not a good name. Fryer Battery, whatever this you say here. Not good, guys. Not a good one. Let's head down over to, that's the only one on our gap down list,
Yeah,
right,
that's
Norm?
all in the gap down.
Okay. All right. Not a whole lot this morning, but that's okay. That's okay. We have the overall market that's going to be moving and creating some opportunities for us already this morning. We could see a pop here. Not by much. It was in the red slightly. So getting there, but it's coming back to the previous day close. So we'll see what it does. It has been moving sideways over the last couple of days, right? I know you had the big range on this day here, but really we're just moving sideways, man. There's just a lot of sideways action. So I expect that today as well, unless something else breaks here. All right, Norm, anything you like this morning?
I'll throw two out. I'm not super convinced on either. Love would be one of them. Southwest Airlines, LUV. Obviously, they're still having the well-publicized travel problems.
Yes.
That,
Yes.
Are kind of a one-off to them that the rest of the industry is not experiencing. And then Boeing, BA.
Boeing, BA. Yep.
They got a new order, but other than that, they have been on a tear, man. This company has been in some pain this year with the rest of the market, but this quarter they've been on fire, gaining close to 70%, I believe. So,
yeah, they definitely been cranking it here. There was reports of them more orders coming in for the 737-8 Max, which is good news for them. So I think another airline bought about 40 units. I saw a quick headline today on CNBC there. So again, just positive news for BA. we'll see where that goes there. So I do like BA. Right now they're very quiet, but this is typical BA pre-market action. You don't get a whole lot
I
of
thought you were going to say
volume.
it's typical BS.
Yeah.
That's
Uh,
everything else.
yeah, it's everything else this morning. It's everything else this morning. So I'll put them as a possible for now, but we can keep a close eye on them. They might make this list very, very quickly. I love the daily too. It's setting up nicely for a possible breakout here. All right, let's see here. Carlos backup scanners for you. I'm not sure what you mean, Dan. Yeah, we'll get it fixed. We'll get our trade ideas fixed here. And the only reason someone asked me this question in onboarding class yesterday, why I use trade ideas, is because how easy it is for me to click and connect, right? Because what we're doing this show live just makes it easier. But it's your call whether you want to do that or do tradingterminal.com. And won't say too much about it, but do the math.
If you're not producing a show and you can save $1,000 or $2,000 a year,
Yeah, do the math.
We're gonna have
do the math.
We're gonna have trading terminal gappers up on the show soon. We've got developers working on getting it into our system. So
Yeah. But I really like the feature today they put on here, guys. So this is real nice, real nice. All right, guys. Let's what else we have? Let's take it to the room. See what you guys like this morning. Momo daily chart flag pattern. Let's see. Usually I don't trade this stock. I seen it get active before. Oh, but there's no volume today though. So definitely not a day that I'll be keeping an eye on it. I want to see this, right? This type of volume here. You're not seeing that right now. So this is not in play, man. But I see what you're saying, the daily, but this can last forever. It might never break out. We've seen this stock do this quite a bit. So not really in play. We need some volume pre-market to tell us that people are actually looking at this thing. Baba daily looks good. Well, yeah, what is Baba up to? How did it trade yesterday? I typed BSBS for a second. All right, Baba. Let's go here. Baba at the moment, what are we looking at? Let's get rid of some of these levels overlapping our highs and lows. It's just light on volume right now. Really light on volume. Daily's been going sideways here. Yesterday, I actually did the opposite of Neo and some other ones popping up and then selling down. Yeah, it could be interesting. I like it for a possible, but we got to get some volume. We got to get some volume on this. All right, we're going into some of our usual suspects. Here is Amazon. And Amazon this morning, what do we got going on? They are light on volume, but the daily looks interesting. We're slamming against this level of support that we've been trying to hold over the last 3 days. So yeah, that could be interesting there. Yeah, I like Amazon because either way, you're going to get the volume, and it's one of our usual suspects that trades very well. How about AMD? What is AMD up to? AMD right now, extremely light volume, so not really in play. I think Nvidia would be the one to look at today, man, just to see how the second day of after this big drop is going to be this morning. Let's see what else we have here. Let's take a look. We got Tesla. What else? Short Tesla. Reagan, you short Tesla already? Okay, guys, we are set. We have our list, and again, these couple of days, this is the type of list we're going to get. It's just not a whole lot that's going to be in play as we lead into New Year's here. So we have Tesla right now, which is an insane number of volume. We have Nvidia, a great volatility day yesterday, but not a good day. We have Love. There's a lot of news now. Now like you said, we're starting to hear this everywhere, and that's not good for them. So you can see the drop here this morning, down another 1.5. And then we have Amazon, which has a nice daily. I do like the daily on Amazon. So, all right, we got a pretty good list so far. Sideways, no trade. Yeah, we spoke about this yesterday, right? You got to be patient during this type of market. There's a lot of sideways action, and Norm mentioned it today, right? It hasn't been great as far as you don't have 5 tickers that you can trade and they all look good for the day. You don't have that. There's a couple on here with some good catalysts like Tesla, Nvidia yesterday, Love, and Amazon. How about Apple? But for the most part, you got to be patient, until things get going again. So very, very important. Apple could be a good one. Apple can. How did it do yesterday? Apple, yeah, had a clean drop actually yesterday. Yeah, Apple could be another one of our usual suspects we add to this list here. All right, guys, let's head over to our community events and announcements. We'll come back and fine tune this list, see what else is moving that we can take advantage of. Let me just get my announcements here. Let's see.
Danny said he just logged in. Why love so small volume? Danny, if you look at the scanners, you'll see why.
Let's see here. So
we are reaching this morning.
Love
doesn't
Love
usually
looks
trade.
great.
Love doesn't usually trade very well pre-market anyway, but they've got a big time news catalyst, so that's why we threw it up there. It's an in case.
Yeah, really.
There's just not much to work with today. We'll see. We'll find some stuff.
Yeah, we'll find something. All right, let's get over to community events and announcements.
All right. We've got no webinar schedule for this week, but next week we're back to, well, we're not completely back to normal. You're going to have onboarding, I'm guessing, on Tuesday?
Yeah, now Tuesday might have to be at 7, right? Because we got the 8 o'clock. Yeah, so Tuesday, onboarding class at 7 p.m. on Tuesday next week.
Yep, there you go. Other than that, it's every Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern, unless there's a holiday like next Tuesday. So catch up with Carlos Tuesday at 7 p.m. for onboarding next week. Then following that, or actually before that, you can do it at 8 because it's Eamon. He's doing it at 5.
There we go.
So
perfect.
Scratch that. 8 p.m. Eastern next week, Tuesday, onboarding. 5 p.m., how do we read price action with Eamon. Then Andrew, the following week on the 10th, 8 p.m. Eastern, back at the normal time, the 920 trade book trade strategy. Psychology next Wednesday, we've got Dr. Kenneth Reed talking about thinking in bets and using probabilities to your advantage. Then the following week on the 11th, 5 p.m. Eastern, Creda talking about finding your mental edge. Thursdays, we do mentorship with John at 11 and Thor at 8. TradingTerminal.com, our free resource to traders, and everything in there from you got heat maps, calendars, opinion pieces, research, charting, scanners, and the replay simulator. Be sure to check it out. All kinds of tools for free that cost thousands of dollars to many people. Don't forget Peak Capital Mentoring Bootcamp starting the 9th of January. Guys, this one is changed up, as we've mentioned. One of the biggest things on here, you're going to have a minimum of 2 times a week, except for that first week as things get set up for everybody and explained. 2 times a week live trading not in a chat room, but in a web meeting like a Zoom, Google Meet type format where participants can talk to each other and talk to the mentor and have a conversation about the trade, point out trades while speaking, not typing. You can ever, even if potentially share your own screen and walk through trades if you want to or whatever. So be sure to check that out. Also, a lot of the other things are going to be more personal, one-on-one sessions, small group sessions, everything else dedicated to an intense 3-month program, building a trade book, helping you figure out what strategies are working for you and launch your trading career. Also, Live Trading Summit, San Diego, March 2nd and 3rd, 2-day event, live trading and a bunch of presentations, discussions about the market and everything else. San Diego, March 2nd and 3rd. Be sure to check that out. BearbullTraders.com/workshop. And then if you're watching on YouTube, you haven't been in the chat, use the promo code PreMarket24 to get a discount off the intro membership. That's 7 calendar days, 5 trading days in the room, unless there's a holiday like Monday. But anyway, be sure to check that out. It bills you one time. It does not recur. And then also, we still have our holiday promotion going on through the beginning of the year. Holiday 60 to get half off, or 60% off the Elite membership, Elite annual membership. If you want to lock in that price and you expire a few months down the road, it will just add it to the end of your term.
All right. Thank you very much, Norm. Okay, guys, let's get to our list here this morning. Again, not a blockbuster list, that's for sure, but we got some stuff that we can look at, and we'll see if anything else pops up in our scanners that we can take advantage of. So, all right, let's get to it. Let's look at here Tesla this morning. So Tesla right now, very, very active, guys. 10 million. That's the most I've seen Tesla trade pre-market, or at least that I can remember. I mean, this is some serious volume. up 2.1 this morning, and actually recovered quite a bit from the lows of the pre-market, right? Your low of the pre-market was all the way down at 104, where we're testing now or hanging around 111 at the moment, as high as 116. So the range already on this thing, you can see, is very aggressive. Again, we're not going to break it down further than Jab already did this morning. So if you missed that, you can always rewind on YouTube and catch that breakdown. So again, just a whole lot of stuff going on there. Low of the pre-market 104.22. High of the pre-market, we're looking at 115.55. So 115.55. So that's your highs and lows of the pre-market at the moment. And if you're looking at the daily, right? If you look at the daily, you have tons of stuff here towards the top. You have your highs and lows for the last 2 trading days, so you don't really need to add more to that, right? You're pretty much set there. Let's get over towards the bottom side, because we did create a new low this morning at 104. Last night after hours, this thing dropped even some more. It dropped down to about 106, which I'm going to mark down. This 107 looks like. I'm going to mark this down as well, just in case this thing does drop. You did have a little bit of a stutter step there on the way up here. You can see that was a heavy support there around 107. The low was like 106, but 107 seems to have gotten a little bit of support happening there. All right, let's go to a weekly or maybe a monthly. Let's go to a weekly here on Tesla and go back to 2020. Find some support under 104, because it will not shock me, guys, if this thing comes back down to 104. The type of weakness that we're seeing here in the last couple of days is scary. Now, I know this is a stock that, some people are gonna, Jared said this best, they're gonna want to be in early if it's gonna rally again. So you might see some aggressive buying of traders trying to be first. And I won't be surprised if that is some of this you're seeing here, right? This is going to get a bounce eventually. It's all about the timing. And Jared broke that down. So here, 90.77, guys, a good area of support on the daily. You are also have getting a spot right around here, 96. Other than that, I don't see anything great that sticks out, right? So 96.54, good area right on here of support, a couple of days opening and closing. And then you got the bottom of support down here over at 90.77. So, and then you got to look out for psychological levels like 100, right? If this thing loses 104, 100 can become an important psychological level just because it's 100, right? Even if the history doesn't show any support there, that can become an area you want to be aware of, at least, right? This 100 right over here. So there's Tesla, guys. All eyes on this thing. It has been really fun to look at, even if you're not trading it. Like, I didn't trade it yesterday, and it was just fun to look at. It's just like, man, what is happening here? So definitely want to keep an eye on. Here is Nvidia. So Nvidia, I'm gonna keep saying until it happens. Tesla to 100. Sunday, it won't surprise anyone anymore. I mean, this thing is so weak. The reaction has been insane. So yeah, 100 of, from making a low of 104 on Tesla is so possible, so possible. So here is Nvidia. Nvidia also had a nice drop yesterday, very clean sell-off, right? Got going pretty early and then had a nice continuation after the pullback, trying to get above the VWAP here. And you can see how well this thing sold off. So that is Nvidia. I think today that it will be good to have them on deck. They're not pushing heavy volume right now. They're not moving a whole lot. Pretty much flat after the bounce this morning from 138 up to the previous day close. But let's see where it goes. I think it'll be a good one to have. Towards the top, guys, you're pretty much set. You have your highs and lows for the last 2 trading days. But I am going to add some levels in between here, right? It's between this gap, not gap down, but this sell-off that we have. We have 145.50 here, right? Kind of in between here. This will be a good one to keep on deck, right? So we have that. Then we get down to the bottom. We have more highs and lows, and we have your previous day close here as well. Below the low of the pre-market, 138.46. If you look at the daily, you do have some areas here with a lot of resistance. No coincidence probably why this is your low of your pre-market, now acting as support. Towards the bottom of this, the big level that sticks out very clear is this one, this 130. But in between here, you got a couple of days also opening and closing around 135.39. So I got a couple of good levels towards the bottom there. If you look back, yeah, we see a lot of support. This 130 here has tons of support here, guys. If you look at that daily right there, you got tons of support happening there. So that's good. And some resistance as well in about 2 days here also. So tons of touches on that one. That is good for us to keep an eye on. And that's Nvidia, guys. Looking forward to that one. Here is a love. Just again, not the best trader, but today is going to be interesting because it continues to be negative news after negative news on this one. And as Norm mentioned, it's a little more public because you start to see this everywhere now, and that's never good for stock, right? Because sometimes you have like BA is a good company. BA is a company that if you have some issues, nobody's really, let's say you have some fuel pumps issues like they have on the 747. Not a lot of people, are going to be putting that on the Channel 5 news. If you're in New York, you know what I mean, right? They're not going to put that on there. But if you have stuff that's like Southwest, something that's more popular that comes up on the news, people are going to pay attention, right? So this is what's happening with love right now. It is everywhere. There are issues, there are cancellations, and everything that's happening, and you can have a bigger reaction just because of that, just because it's more public than what it would be on something like BA having a problem that is not as well known that people cannot relate to, right? So love dropping again some more, guys, down 1.5. I know the volume is extremely light today, but given our list so far, guys, this looks like it could be one of our sleepers this morning for sure. I love the pre-market right now. It's right where the price is at, 33.43. So I'm gonna slam a level there. Let's see if that's gonna hold or if it's going to continue to drop to 33. Now look at this here, guys. You do have that 33.43. You do have that's a level. So I am going to keep that even if the pre-market low becomes slower. You do have a couple of days opening and closing right at that area. So I am going to keep that there even if we do drop further. Towards the top, guys, highs and lows, previous day close. You're all set there. I don't think you need to add anything else. We'd love to see this drop a little bit more here if we can in the next couple of minutes after the market open. Here is Amazon. So Amazon going red to green right now. They're daily trying to hold to this 82.88, but really struggling right now. Any news on Amazon? What's going on with them today? Oh, it's just overall market. Okay, it's just the overall market coming back to the previous day close, and now you have Amazon and others following suit. Okay, they just happen not to be above, well in the green, not just dropping into the red here. But I like their daily, guys. Their daily is really nice. Love the pre-market right now, 82.78. So let's slam a level there, and then we haven't been here in Amazon. I'm sure there's a new 52-week low. I wanna say in a very long time, in a very very long time. So let's go over to a weekly. That's going to be shift F5. So F5 on my keys here will take us over to a weekly chart. We can go ahead and see what do we have below 82.88. 82.88. We're going to have this right here. And 82.88, guys, tons of stuff happening there. So you're holding to that. But let's go here. We have 80.80, right? So we have 80.80, and we have this one down here over at 78.65. So I got two pretty good levels of below this 82 that we're seeing here as the low of the pre-market at the moment. So that looks very nice. That is our Amazon for today. And then another one of our usual suspects this morning is going to be Apple. So Apple, again, smack in the middle of the highs and lows of the last two trading days. I'm going to mark down the high of the pre-market over at 130.52. And once we do that, man, I think we're pretty much set. The low of the pre-market as well. It's just slightly below the lows from the highs and lows for the last two trading days at 129.52. Once I do that, I think you're set here. I don't think you really need to add anything else. You're seeing a lot of support in this area where the previous day close is. We are slightly below that now, but let's see if this thing is going to bounce or head lower. But overall, you're looking at the SPY on this one, right? It's just going to do whatever this guy is going to do here. All right, excellent. That is what we have so far this morning, guys. We got a couple of possibles here. NEO was great yesterday, nice sell-off. BA can get going pretty quiet right now. We'll see at the market open how this takes off. They have a lot of positive news, and these guys, they just been ripping. I mean, these guys has just been, the recovery they've seen is insane here. So pretty nice pop the last couple of weeks. And then we have BABA as well, which not doing a whole lot right now. Very light volume. I have this as a possible in case we do have some opportunities for a sell-off. This stock loves to sell off even when it gaps up. Loves to sell down. So looking forward to that. It's not gapping up today. So a little struggles trying to get that going this morning. All right. What do we got going on, guys? What else you guys like this morning? What else you guys like this morning? I see people looking at Oxy. My Oxy was so bad yesterday. Wow. It was just brutal, guys. Brutal. I mean, just every candle overlapping the previous one. Here you gotta, but then you gotta time this, right? How do you trust this move when all you got so far this morning is this, right? You gotta have a really, really good a good type of a trade book to be able to catch something like this, right? I don't even know what strategy that is, but it was horrible the entire day. And this is Oxy, man. It can give you some really, really amazing days like we see in the past. And don't put too much weight on the pre-market action, right? We talked about this before. This does not translate to what's going to happen after the open at all. This has nothing to do with it because we've seen this type of pre-market action trade amazing after the bell. So you can't go by that. And then we've seen great pre-market action on Oxy. That's like, okay, this is really in play today. Trade horrible after the bell. So there's no correlation between what happens in pre-market and after the bell on Oxy at all. Not like other ones. Like if you look at Neo and you see the type of pre-market action it's having, you could tell, okay, this is really not in play today. And it's not in play. Like nothing will happen. But Oxy doesn't care about the pre-market action at all. I noticed on Tesla, you didn't mention 149 as pre-market high. There are a couple of candles that spike around 7 p.m. yesterday. Let's take a look because Tesla is where we're going to be keeping a lot of eyes on. So you're looking at 149. 149. Pre-market yesterday over to 149. Yeah, I don't have that level because all the way up here, right? If you're talking about 149, we got a long ways to go from that. I don't think in the pre-market action we're going to get to not pre-market. I don't think in the after the market open we're going to shoot up that high right away. So yeah, that's why I don't have those down on Tesla because you have plenty. You have levels all the way up to 130. So I'm not really worried about 149 right now. If we start breaking through this, then yeah, I'll mark down 149. I'll mark that down. Now you say I don't see that candle yesterday on the pre-market that you're saying. You say you saw a candle yesterday on Tesla that was at 149. I don't see that in my pre-market. If I look at my pre-market from yesterday, yeah, I don't see that. It could be your whatever. I'm not sure what platform you're using. It could be that platform maybe has some transactions be recorded there, and not actual price actually moving up there. Yeah, Matthew, I ignore those. I ignore those at times, right? If they're not within the price or TOS, yeah. So it's probably something looking a little bit different than my platform. But it's all about how far it is, right? 149 right now for you is not important, right? At the moment, right? Because it's over here. So this is 149, right? Right now, you're worried about what's around the price action. Eventually, if you start breaking out here, then yeah, you might want to mark that down. But I don't even see that wick on my platform. So, all right, guys, any questions? Anything that you guys are looking at that you like this morning? Let's take a look at XBEV. We have it here being mentioned in our chat. So XBEV right now, what do we got? XBEV at $9. I keep forgetting how low priced this stock is now. Every time I come here, I'm like, oh shoot, $9, and it was lower before at 7. I mean, I don't like it here below $10. I really don't. I mean, I'm barely liking Neo. It's just hovering above that $10 mark, but it does trade better than XBEV. But right now, if I look at XBEV at the moment, I don't see great volume. Hard to borrow, and even hard to borrow now, huh? What is their flow? Their short interest? Do they have a high short interest? These guys? Just curious. I don't think they were a ticker that had a problem like that. If anybody could look that up, what is their short interest on this? But right now, yeah, I don't see these guys as being good and in play. And their volume has dropped so much. You could tell too here. Right, they had a couple of days where they did something, but man, their volume not the same what it used to be on XBEV. So the last couple of days though, right, December, you can see here an increase in movement. But I'm sure if I look at Neo, if I look at other EV vehicles, I'm gonna get that too, right? Let's take a look. Let's go to Neo. Let's go to Neo here. Yeah, see, you're going to get the same activity. So if anything happens with China, this was China, I believe, with their restrictions on COVID or whatever the case was. I don't think it was the SEC issue there. that they're always going on and off about. You can find other stocks that can trade a little bit better, right? So just be careful on that one. How do I see if it's hard to borrow on Dash Trader Pro? Right on here. So which was that one? That was XPEF. XPEF was hard to borrow. So this is something new that they did. You got to make sure you got the latest update, right? So they put this on here now, hard to borrow, right? So they got a couple of new things that come up here. So if you don't see it now, it could be that you haven't upgraded your platform. So just update your platform and you should be able to get that on XPEF. So and then here you will see, you know, if you can short it, if it's you have available inventory. Like right now, we don't have available inventory, obviously hard to borrow, and we don't have available inventory with interactive brokers, right? Yeah, short interest is what I meant, JP. That is what I meant. Yep, short interest. What's that percentage? Meta is still flagging on the daily. Yeah, I think a lot of stuff just, you know, flagging, going sideways into the market decides what's next, right? Are we going to continue to sell off, or are we going to continue to move forward? Life of mine, yeah. So the gappers list, we're going to get that fixed. Is I have an issue with expiration on it, so we're going to get that fixed. It expired, I think it was yesterday, day before. So we'll get that fixed. It's going to be coming up here. But for now, guys, you can head over to tradingterminal.com, right? And you can get access to the scanners there. You can have your gap up and your gap down scanners. And I was showing off a feature earlier this morning where you can actually now move these around, which is pretty nice. You can expand them, you know, so you can, you know, have what's important, what's not important to you. Can you minimize these? If I minimize, okay, you can minimize them too. Okay, nice. So this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. Again, we're constantly this is new. We're constantly making changes to it. So if something looks wacky and it's not working the way you expect, this because again, guys, we're constantly improving this thing. But I really like this feature here. So right now at the moment, disregard anything with a timestamp of yesterday. Just look at the ones that have like this one. The gap up is only just one here, TGTX, right? But yeah, take advantage of that. Okay, excellent. Great question. What buys do I have on Tesla? None. I have no buys. I am still I'm still, man, like shocked on how much this has sold off, right? So that was yesterday. Today it's just it can go either way, man. I mean, there's people that might want to start catching this bounce. It might be a little too early to the party, so you got to be careful with that. But it really can go in any direction. This thing here, as day traders, you just got to be, ready to get out of a trade if it's not working. You know, just got to be ready to get out of a trade. So you can have your bias and your idea. Okay, this might bounce here. We're seeing a little bit of strength. I'm gonna go long. But just be ready to, take that trade off faster than you put it on, because this stock, as you can see, is very aggressive. Look at the low today. The low is 104, right? We got a little bit of volume. We shot up to 115, right? So it just kind of tells you how aggressive this stock can move. You want to, again, the minute you put in that trade, put your finger right on the sell key, because it can change directions that quickly, right? Or set your hard stop if you're doing that. But just be ready to bail immediately. And the great thing about taking a small loss quickly, even at break even, right, is that if you see your setup come up again, then you can always get back in, right? You should not be thinking about, oh, it's going to cost me commission. Like, commissions should not be a thought process when you're taking a trade. It really shouldn't be, right? You commissions are important, but you think about commissions when you're setting up your trading business plan. You think about commissions there and say, okay, I'm going to trade this way, to save on cost of my business, right? I'm not going to partial out 10 times. I'll partial out 5 times. When I grow my account, then I'll partial out 10 times, right? So think about that in your trading plan, in your business trading plan. You're not thinking about that when you're taking a trade. So get out of a trade, get out ASAP, right? And always get back in. If you see it setting up again, get back in, right? There's no problem in doing that at all. But there is a problem if you're going to hold on through a pullback that doesn't become a pullback and becomes a change in direction. That's going to hurt. That's going to hurt. So I'm very, very careful with that. But right now, again, guys, 10 million shares traded, very, very active. On short selling restriction, SSR, for Tesla this morning. So if you're looking to short, you got to get in on the ask, right? And we have, I'm sure, a ton of inventory on this thing. Yeah, 10 million shares available for short, so that's no problem there. There is a restriction on it, on margins, right? So there's a restriction on margins with IB, and you see that with stocks that are a little more risky. You saw that with AMC as well when they started to get very risky. I think still now, I think they still kept those margin restrictions on AMC. Let me just check. AMC hard to borrow. See, so you have that there now. And if I click on here, you get something like this, which tells you hard to borrow. And then oh no, this is actually looking pretty good. Actually, no restriction on AMC like we had in the past. So yeah, so there it is, guys. Chris MC, man, we haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're doing well. Welcome. Tesla is also a short. Oh yeah, is there a Tesla Q? I didn't know that. Wow, there's a Tesla Q. Oh, there is. Yeah, I think I might have heard this, but I don't remember. I mean, Tesla trades so well, you can just trade Tesla short. But on a day like today, yeah, look at this thing here. Be very careful. How leveraged is this? 3 times? Is this 3 times leveraged? Just be very, very careful. Tesla Q. When did this thing open up here? It says August. Maybe June. All right, cool. Yeah, be careful with that. I mean, guys, Tesla moves so well. You can just trade Tesla if you like, but I'm not sure if that's leveraged. Oh, it's only one. Oh, it's not leveraged. Okay, so that's not bad then if it's not leveraged. When it's leveraged is when you want to be very, very careful. All right, excellent, guys. That is what we have. Let's take a look at our moderators lineup here as we start wrapping it up. I have Thor, I have Susan. Let's take a look at what's going on there. As I'm doing this, guys, hit that thumbs up over on YouTube. We appreciate it very, very much. And if this is your first time here, consider joining the party, right? Subscribe to the channel. We are live every market open at 8 a.m. Monday through Thursday with Jared, and then 8:30, Norm and I come in and do the pre-market prep. So let me get you guys over to our watches for moderators. Only 2 so far because it is that type of morning, guys, where things are a little bit slower than usual. And again, for our newer traders especially, this is okay. The market is not broken. This is perfectly fine. You're going to have months where you crush it and you do very well, like we did September, October, and November. We completely destroy those months. We did very well. And you have months like this one where you're barely going to be break even on your trading, and that's okay, right? This is a marathon, so you're going to have some months that are just not going to do well, and that's perfectly fine. So just keep that in mind, guys. Here it is. We have Thor looking at Tesla, Oxy, the spine, the Qs, and Susan looking at Tesla, Amazon, Oxy, secondary list, Nvidia and Baba, which again looking very good. Nvidia had an amazing day yesterday. As far as trading, not good for them as it just kept dropping, but looking forward to see how they're going to trade today. They have already 487,000 in volume this morning. So, all right, excellent, guys. Anything else that we might have missed? TSLL was TSLL. That's another one. Man, how many Tesla stuff do we have? TSLL. Now this is it's a lower price too. Okay, so this was just mirroring whatever the stock is doing here. Okay, all right, so you got some options there. Then now this is leverage 1.5. If I'm reading this correctly. Sometimes they put the leverage on here, so this is leverage 1.5. Looks like okay. All right, very good, very good. So we got some options there. All right, guys, excellent, guys. Trade safe today. We will see you guys tomorrow at what's tomorrow? Today? What day is today? The 20. I know it's the 28th, but I don't even know what it's like. Tuesday, Wednesday. It's Wednesday, right? Wednesday. Yeah. So it is Wednesday, guys. So we'll see you guys tomorrow, Thursday at 8 a.m. Engineering the markets, and followed by the pre-market show with Norman at 8:30. So guys, trade safe. Have a good one, and we will see you then. Take care.